Welcome to the Meat and Potatoes podcast. Ordinarily, I'd have more to say about business leaders and people that move the needle in Silicon Slopes, but today it's Chris Rawle, who's a colleague here at Silicon Slopes, the editor of the magazine, and the second employee of Silicon Slopes. Everyone knows who he is. How are you, Chris?
I'm fantastic. I'm already a little offended because I am a noted leader and noted needle mover for not only Silicon Slopes community, but just kind of the world in general. And the fact that you won't introduce me as such is very offensive, considering we've worked together for a long amount of time. So what gives here?
As soon as we find that needle that's been moved, I will change the introduction.
My LinkedIn profile begins with noted needle mover, and it's endorsed by probably 200 people, dude. There's so many needles that have been moved just by me. Think of how easy a needle is to move. It's tiny. It weighs nothing.
It is. I'm talking about like a needle on a dashboard with business metrics.
Yeah, if you want to talk business metrics, you came to the wrong place today. So we could just end the podcast right now.
Which is exactly the point. This is going to be a podcast where we just bitch and moan about how irritated we are with a world without sports. Which leads to the first question. You're one of the biggest sports fiends, both in the consumption of and gambling on, that I know. So that's why you were invited to this, because this is more of a therapy, mental health edition of Meat and Potatoes. So I don't know how many weeks we are into a life without any sports, but I'm interested in how you're coping.
I also don't know how many weeks we are in, because it's kind of turned into the black abyss of nothingness, especially at nighttime. Nighttime is a grim state of affairs, dude.
Yes,
At first, when it very first happened, so we're talking the Rudy Gobert night, sometime in early March, Wednesday night, we find out he's got COVID. Everything falls off of that, Sports leagues, NBA declares that night they're going to be suspending. Everything follows suit the next day. It's just this snowball that started rolling turned into this enormous thing, right? And so at the time, we weren't really sure about timetables. Now here, over a month later, we're like even less certain of timetables, despite the fact that people want to like have things set in stone.
Yeah.
And so at the time, again, with this ambiguous timeline set in place, I go, okay. I am a sports fiend. I widely acknowledge it. I wear the title with great pride. I'm like, I can weather the storm. If anybody can weather the storm, I have good willpower. It's going to be fine. I can read books. I love reading. I can catch up on some TV shows. It's not going to be as big of a deal as people are making it out to be in my life. Because everybody started calling me. They're like, dude, you're just, what are you going to do? You're going to fold up into a ball and just dissolve into nothingness. I'm like, no, I can weather the storm. I can weather the storm. Literally 2 days in. I'd work during the day. I'd go golf. I'd get home and I'm like, okay, it's time to, all right, I'm going to watch a TV show. I'd watch one episode. It didn't matter what it was. Even if it was good, I'm like, okay. I'd pull up my Bet Online account. I have 3 gambling accounts because that's just, why wouldn't you? I'd pull one up and just start looking at odds. I'm like, oh man, okay, yeah, we got to get back into this. After 2 days, I was done, okay? So then I fully descended into the abyss. And I'm like, I lost sense of time and purpose. Obviously, look at me. Yeah. As anybody who can see this video, both of us actually have no purpose. You probably look more so than me, but I will widely acknowledge I do not project a sense of purpose right now.
Right.
And so there was probably a 2-week stretch where I'd go. One of my normal behaviors is when sports are actually going, I go and I compare odds across the 3 accounts that I have, So go in, let's say the Kings are playing the Grizzlies. So I go in, okay, let's see here. It's a 4-point line here. Okay, 4.5-point line. You go odd shopping. Then you're comparing totals. Then you're comparing features, all that kind of stuff. It's fascinating for someone like me, again, a noted sports fiend. You also like this kind of stuff and you love talking about it. That's why we're here on this podcast. So I did that for like 2 weeks. And then it got so dark because the timelines became so ambiguous. 2 weeks is probably when it set in that I don't really know when sports are coming back and in what form. And so then bookmakers in turn were like, we can't really offer a wide variety of even future odds because we're not really sure what shape each season is going to take, or if indeed the seasons that are already going on, like, are going to be finished. So NBA, NHL, that kind of stuff. So then this odds shopping, which I would do just like some sports pervert for 2 weeks straight, I couldn't even do that. It had nothing for me because the odds that were there were just a mirage. They weren't real things based upon something that we didn't know if it would happen. So that's a long-winded way of saying I'm not doing good, Garrett.
Yeah.
I'm not doing good at all. I don't have my hair up like you. If my hair was longer, it would be up.
Yeah.
Things are not going well in the sports world, dude.
No, they aren't. I wanted to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. And again, this is the mental health aspect of this podcast. Anytime we're in the office together, we pretty much just talk about what bets we've placed and how we're looking at things. And then we'll talk about like nostalgic sports, but we don't talk about TV shows because compared to sports, they suck.
Everything does.
So, we're into it now, and I'll visit the same sites as you, just hoping that there's some rebel league in Africa or something playing soccer, and I'd place that bet. I've been betting politics. I've got Andrew Cuomo as a vice president nominee at 4,500. Susan Rice at 9,500. The next justice of the Supreme Court to leave is Elena Kagan at plus 4,000. Clarence Thomas at plus 400. That's how deep I've fallen. I'm betting politics and Supreme Court justices leaving. Still better than nothing.
Quick sidebar on what you were saying about the nostalgic aspect of sports. So I thought one of the ways to weather the storm would be tapping into that. And all sports networks, especially ESPN and its family of networks, they've really tried to do that because there's no programming that they have. So night times, it's this array of past games that were just awesome, right? And so when I saw that this is coming up, I'm like, okay, this will be a way to weather the storm. I can sit down and watch the Texas USC Rose Bowl. It's my favorite college football game of all time. It's going to make me way happy. I'm going to remember Vince Young running the end zone. I'm going to remember Reggie Bush's lateral and Lendell White getting stopped on fourth down, all this stuff, right? And come to find out, in a world where I don't know when sports will exist again, watching that is actually counterproductive. And it put me in a place where I was just like, this makes me too sad. This actually makes me sad. And I couldn't watch it, dude.
Yeah.
I actually couldn't watch it.
I'm in the same boat because if you have even a half functioning brain, you remember what the game was or the golf shot was. Like I don't need to remember that Tiger Woods makes that putt because I don't need to watch it because I remember it. And so there's no drama at all. And I'm in the same boat. It's more painful to watch even reruns of like Nebraska games where they win the national title. Can't do it. And the elixir is not there with the repeats.
Well, reruns of Nebraska games are a whole other story because you and I are both fans of their football program. And watching glory years 25 years removed, and especially the last 2 decades have just turned into a dark, dark place. That taps into a place of me that is, it questions whether things that were once good can become good again. And so once you go down that rabbit hole, and again, you're 20 years removed from the last like really defining Nebraska season where they were a national power and people respected them and you enjoyed watching their season and you argue with people about all this stuff. It taps into a place it's pretty similar to where we're at currently with this sports black hole that exists.
Yeah. So it's compounded by the addiction of putting a little action on sports as well. And on, one of my accounts, all the money's been refunded on the bets that I had that were like long-term or, cause I bet the horses, rugby, cricket, baseball, basketball, football, hockey, F1, NASCAR. And it's just 1 week after the next, canceled. So it looks like your account's going up, but that money's just play money at this point. I've got like prop bets that are probably going to get canceled in the next couple of weeks, I would assume, because I can't even read the stories about when people are guessing the leagues will come back on.
Well, we're in the same boat on that because, again, it's counterproductive. It's all people theorizing on a thing that it's impossible to theorize about. There's no expert on when sports leagues can possibly return from a pandemic. That doesn't exist. There's been no historical precedent for that within the last, 50 years of sports being a really, really, really big part of American society. So now that we're sitting here, quote unquote, like experts, whether it's sports writers or even league commissioners or people who are high up within those specific leagues, they come out and say stuff and everybody runs with it. So, okay, baseball is they're going to go to the Phoenix area, and there's all these spring training facilities and the Diamondbacks arena, and they can quarantine everybody, and we can start baseball soon. And then you dig even a hair below the surface and you go, well, this, just what you've described involves thousands of people. Like, each team's staff is players, coaches, trainers, like go down the list of all the working professionals that are attached at the hip to a team, and you're in the hundreds for one team. Okay. And so then you get all these people in one area. It doesn't matter if they're quarantined. Everything we know about COVID is if there are thousands of people in the same place, one person will inevitably have it or get it. And at that point, it's shut down. And so you can't really theorize that that's going to be the solution, because again, like, we don't really know what the solution is. And so we don't have a timeline for anything. And the longer that goes on and the harder that hits home, the less I can consume sports content. So then I'm just like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do. So then I go to the Meat and Potatoes podcast. I'm like, I'm just going to come on this podcast with this hair guy. He's got his hair up. He's going to talk to me about how we're both sad about sports. That's my outlet, Garrett. How do you feel about that?
That's the best we can do.
Yeah, it is the best we can do.
It's not very good, but we'll take what we can get. You, as a bachelor, have a nice outlet in golf, though, at least.
Saving grace, to say the very least, because daylight hours can be spent playing golf. Stuff down in Utah County, they're taking all the necessary precautions. I call into the clubhouse. I have a season pass, check in through that. Don't see anybody, go out to the course. You're not taking pins out. You're not getting close to people. So it's kind of the exercise outlet, and also doing the other thing that I love more than anything in life, that and sports gambling. So at least I have one of the two. You always text me or Slack me, and you're super bitter towards me because I do at least have one outlet. And you, a man who has zero outlets, who has to put his hair up as presumably the number one outlet in your life, you're a little bit more angry about it than I am. So I am coasting on that. I can say for certain that from a mental perspective, I'm in a relatively happy place because I have that as a fallback option. I shudder to think what would be going on if that was gone. My hair would probably be 3 feet long, and it would be put straight up to the ceiling. That's all that would be happening.
Like in your glory days in high school, if I remember right, you had a lot more hair.
That's exactly correct.
All right. So you would assume that all the commissioners are listening to this.
Yes. That's why I came on.
Yeah.
I know you are a noted needle mover as well, and I know that about you.
Yeah. Moving those needles. So here's our chance to give the commissioners some advice on reopening all of the sports. And you can go first.
Oh,
and
this
is regard public safety if you'd like.
I don't know if a lot of people would like where I would go on that front. This part actually is kind of sad, because I'll have this discussion with my friends or other people that I interact with about sports. And when we logically approach a solution, we arrive in the place that I've been talking about for the last 10 minutes, which is, it doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter what you can come up with. Based on what we currently know about COVID and how it spreads and the precautions that people need to be taking in order to make sure that doesn't happen, sports seem like kind of an improbability until we know more information and or have a cure for it, essentially. And so until those things happen, on the information side, hopefully that's sooner rather than later. Let's say a month down the road, if we can have information that we know, okay, this is what needs to happen, and we feel confident that we'll be able to stop the spread. Okay, then we can start putting parameters in place in any league where, okay, there's not going to be fans. We're going to minimize the amount of people, and hopefully we can get some semblance of a product, even if it's warped in relation to the original product, at least we can have some semblance of something to put out there. So television networks have something, people have something to watch, gamblers have something to gamble on. And there is something that you and I can go browse around on websites and look at really remote odds and discuss like, okay, I bet $2 on this 300-year-old man at 4 million to 1 to win the Masters. What did you bet on? And we can do stuff like that because that's really what we're trying to tap back into. So unfortunately, I don't really have good advice. Again, it doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter how many people you have at your disposal. It seems like we're kind of in limbo, especially in regards to sports. Like the world in general is in limbo. You're seeing that on the economic side. You're probably talking to people about that every single day, whether that's for this podcast or for your job. And I think the weird part about this is just the uncertainty that surrounds it. So you're trying to come up with solutions and put things in place that go, okay, this means that I know for certain that my business can survive in 2 months, or that sports can come back, or that I can gamble, or like go down the list of things that you want to be doing. And you can't really do that because there's so much uncertainty that surrounds it. So there's no good solution. That's the point, Garrett. This is life. Welcome to life. You knew it before. It's even more uncertain now. Life is a great void of uncertainty. You just kind of have to go with it. I don't know what to tell you, buddy.
Well, damn it. I was hoping you'd have a solution. All right, here, listen to this one. Basketball is going to be tough because it's a bunch of gangly, sweaty dudes in close proximity. But baseball, you could do. You get, 2 camera guys. They're 500 yards away. It's not going to be great content. And then the players just show up in their cars, walk in, in their uniforms or in their sweats. It doesn't matter. The ball boys got all the stuff out there, and they just play a baseball game just like you would when you're a kid. You're not very close to anyone. You can put on a mask. There's pictures of them playing baseball during the swine or the Spanish flu in 1918, 1919. Those guys didn't take no for an answer. So then you've got 9 players on both sides, right? But you got 9 players in the field and 1 batter. That seems like social distancing. And then you got 2 camera guys way far away. There's the solution, at least for baseball.
I feel where you're coming from on that. I think the most feasible sport to come back relatively quickly is golf, because of what I've just been talking about, like even from my own life. Professional golfers, they're going to have a bigger entourage than I would have, whether that's a swing coach and a caddy and, massage therapist, all that kind of stuff. But the PGA could step in and say, okay, you're going to have to bite the bullet for the first 2 months, let's say that we're here. And it's going to be you and your caddy. We're going to make sure that you guys are not really interacting with other people, or like you could have people play by themselves. A person and their caddy. And you have, you set up standstill cameras on each hole, and that's the tournament. Again, it's going to be a very warped product in relation to what we're used to consuming, watching the Masters, and we have shot tracker on every shot, and we can see every single blade of grass when Rory McIlroy's hitting an 8-iron, that kind of stuff. But like, if something was there, I would eat it like a Thanksgiving turkey, the whole turkey, not even a drumstick. I would eat the entire turkey, okay, bones and all.
Yeah.
And so I think golf would be the most feasible. And they've been saying stuff timeline-wise where they're more hopeful about coming back sooner. Their problem arises when you're traveling from location to location. Then we're running into the same kinds of issues that we're currently running into, which is as soon as people start traveling, it causes kind of a big problem because one person can take this here and there and then spreads and this and that, like, the whole story. So worst case scenario, like, find a country club, I don't care where, get everybody there and just have them play golf and I can bet on it. Just do this for me. Just one person. It's my cry, dude. You don't even have to give me the Thanksgiving turkey. Give me a little bit of cranberry sauce. I'll lap it up, dude. I'll eat it without anything.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so of all the events that have been canceled, basketball, hockey, baseball, Kentucky Derby, NASCAR, F1, the Masters, which one stung the deepest for you?
The deepest stings are twofold, and it's related to things that are near and dear to my heart. Hockey hit hard because my team's the Colorado Avalanche, and they were probably, well, I'm biased, but they were probably the funnest team to watch in hockey this year, loaded with young talent, coming together at the right time, arguably the best team in the Western Conference, young, talented, super fun. Like, go down the list of all the things that you want to watch in a hockey team. So they're gearing up for a playoff run, and I was just like, I was so excited. So that went out the window. And then my other great love, as you can see from the photo behind me, is Lebron, who the week prior had just put together a 1-2 punch of beating up on Giannis and the Bucks, beating up on Kawhi and the Clippers. Lakers were staking their claim to best team in the league. LeBron was making a push for MVP. Everything was setting up for him to win a title. And I was so fired up about that. And so then that went out the window. So those two hit because of those two specific things. The other one that just, when you got into April and the Masters wasn't there, it was just weird. And even the reruns they were showing, Tiger in 97, Bubba winning, Tiger winning again, his chip in year. Like, I couldn't watch them again because of reasons that I just explained. And it was weird having that void, because that is a nexus point week. You know, you've got to the end of March Madness. The championship game is that Monday. NBA and NHL are swinging into the playoffs that week. They're finishing up the regular seasons. The Masters is doing their thing. It's just, it's sports nirvana.
Yeah.
So that was out the window. But everything is there, dude. I would do anything for a Padres Dodgers regular season baseball game. And I don't even like regular season baseball, you know?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm right there with you. So that leads to a doomsday scenario and then a possible happy question. So we've established that we're both fairly low in life currently.
That doesn't even need to be established. Just based on physical appearance, you all know. Look at both of us.
Not good. And then, so April's a pretty good sports month, as you just mentioned, but October is probably the best.
Correct.
So, what would be your state of wild depression if we don't have college football and the NFL and all of the glorious postseason baseball of October?
Truth be told, I haven't been willing to confront that. I know it's a possibility, and I know that people are talking about what football is going to be, and especially college football. I can't engage, dude. You know how therapists always tell you need to confront your feelings and let it out, and then it's going to be better?
Yeah,
I'm the opposite person. If there's something looming that's deep and dark, and for me, this is the deepest and darkest because college football is my favorite thing on planet Earth, followed closely by Green Bay Packers football and the NFL in general. An October without football, I actually can't confront. I can't do it. It's too dark, dude. So when you say you need to like talk about what that would be, my brain can't comprehend. I can speak those words and understand that there's a world where they may exist and it may be this particular world. But until it's happening, I can't actually put myself in the situation. That's my defense mechanism. So it's not healthy. I'm not saying it is. But again, that's why we're both in the state we're in.
Yeah, we were in New York in January, and we watched the Book of Mormon on Broadway, and we were laughing probably the hardest at that song, Turn It Off. That's
probably why.
Like, oh, yeah, what if there's no, and then I just turn it off. I can't even fathom the idea of
that's actually a very good statement. I didn't think of it. That is turned into my theme song for sports being thrown into ambiguity. Just turn it off. As soon as your mind goes down, bam, gone. Who knew I learned so much from the Book of Mormon musical that I could apply to my own life?
Okay, so then the flip side of that coin is it could be one of the most glorious falls in the history of the world as it relates to sports, because you could have Kentucky Derby, they'll cram in a bunch of golf, college football, all of that, hockey. How happy will you be in October if everything's normal again?
That one I can engage with, and especially in a world where every single major sporting event is going. You know, golf majors are crammed into the fall, football's going, hockey's going, basketball's going, baseball's going, you name it. Everything is happening. That would be it would be a sensory overload in a way that might not be healthy for me as well, because I can get in these states. Right now is a pretty good time for when I get overloaded, because golf season is picking up. Outside of work, I'm spending all daylight hours playing golf. And so once I'm done, it's usually playoff time for hockey and basketball. And so nighttime until I go to bed is spent cramming these games in on DVR. So I'm ripping through LeBron, and then I'm watching, Penguins, Flyers, and then I'm watching this, and every single day is that. So it's just like there's no amount of waking time that is spent outside of those three areas: working, golfing, consuming playoff sports. And so if you think about October, which is all, especially September to October, it's, for my money, the two most glorious golf months of the year here in Utah, because the weather is prime, courses are in their best condition. A lot of people who golf have worn themselves out, and so there's not as many people on the course. And then normally you'll have football going, and then NBA and NHL come back in October, and it's just the best place to be, right? Thinking about this year, I don't think there's enough hours in the day for me to do everything that I want to do. And we're talking about a young eligible bachelor who has, theoretically, I have the most time on earth of anybody who could have time, right? So I'm a little bit worried that it might be too much of a good thing, but I'm more than willing to engage with that if the alternative is the exact opposite. So I guess I'll throw that question back to you, because you are not a young eligible bachelor. You're a married man with a finite amount of time. You have multiple kids. You have a dog. You have a weird dog that takes up who knows how much of your time. You have a job that you're in Lehigh, you know, for presumably 12 hours a day. I don't know how much you spend there. It seems like way too much.
Way too much.
And so when it's October and you have all of these things, like, how are you going to carve out time to consume college football, NFL, NBA, NHL, golf majors, horse racing, NASCAR? Like, you go even deeper down the sports rabbit hole than I do. So I'm a little bit worried about you, buddy.
Well, thank you. That's very nice. Well, one of my favorite things to do, if you can't watch it, is listen to baseball, playoff baseball on the radio with a really good announcer.
That is cool, dude.
It's very good therapy, and it's just cathartic. Yeah, I won't be in the same boat as you. I won't be able to cram as much in, but I will have a big smile on my face for those 2 months. That's a guarantee.
You have a strange amount of old-timey behaviors. Of all the behaviors I've learned about, listening to baseball games on radio is probably number one on the list. But this one I actually condone. It's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah. You get a good announcer. There's calling a beautiful game. It's crisp. Oh, it's great.
In my mind, you're sitting on your back porch in one of those broke down lawn chairs that probably like has something wrong with the folding mechanism. And you've put your kids to bed and the sun's going down, but it's still warm enough out on the porch. And you're just listening to some, you know, Dodgers Braves playoff game and just rocking back and forth. Oh, this is the life, dude. This is the good stuff.
Absolutely. That's the goal. That's the goal. All right. So the commissioners have been informed. They know what we need and how we need it and when we need it. And that was the main point of this podcast. So,
yeah, I'm glad that, you know what? I'm glad that our voices could be heard. I'm glad that you could invite me on your extended platform that you have directly into the commissioner's ears of each individual sport. Yeah. And I'm glad that we could hopefully move the needle together. And after this podcast is done, endorse one another on LinkedIn, dude.
As well-known needle movers. Okay, so I think we'll schedule this for once a month until sports are back, and this will be the punishment for the world. This will happen once a month. We'll hold the world hostage. This will go on until sports are back. Is that a deal?
Nah, I'm down for that, dude.
Okay. All right. Well, this is a first iteration and edition of Meat and Potatoes where we just bitch and moan about sports and how we miss them so much. Thank you very much, Chris Rawle. Look forward to chatting again in a month, regardless of what the landscape looks like. Fingers crossed.
Absolutely. I'll come with my hair put up next time. So peace out.
Okay. See ya.